Respected judges, worthy opponents, and all of you here today, my name is Dallas and this is Yash, and we would like to thank you for your time and interest in our topic. We will be discussing whether or not Canada should allow our organic farmers the option to utilize all of the benefits that genetically modified crops offer. Currently, our standards in Canada prohibit these technologies, and we are going to convince you that these standards should evolve to allow GM crops in our organic farming industry.
Hello everyone, my name is John Fichter and this is my partner Jonathan McDonald. Today we are defending that organic standards in Canada do not allow for the inclusion of GMOs. A genetically modified organism, or GMO, is an organism that has had its DNA altered or modified in some way through genetic engineering. This is used in agriculture production to create crops that produce a certain way or are resistant to certain chemicals and environmental hazards such as frost and drought.
There are many advantages for the BT crop varieties. Insect-resistant GM crop can replace pesticides and toxic chemicals. The BT gene expressed in the plants is not toxic to animals and humans because the genes do not transfer from GM food to our DNA. So how would you address it?
Actually, a journal article from 2007 by J. Rensburg titled "The First Report of Field Resistance by the Stem Borer to BT Transgenic Maize" found exactly that. Larvae in Africa were able to survive the BT toxin despite a reduced larval growth rate. So this shows that insect resistance is possible, and that while BT technology is beneficial, it's definitely not a long-term solution.
People are willing to pay a premium price for the produce that is all organic, no GMO. Organic food has less pesticide and herbicide chemicals applied to them. Conventional farming is found to be a negative effect on the environmental and affecting our economy. In supermarkets in 2017, they saw sales of organic produce go in high demand. An estimated $2 billion was spent on organic produce.
If the price is higher, we are willing to believe that it is better for us than a non-organic produce. Either way, organic produce definitely costs more at the point of sale because of increased production costs. And also the writer Gina Hagler that you referenced there does not compare GM foods to organic, but instead is arguing the advantages of organic over conventional practices. So the main arguments she is making does not target GMO technology as being a bad thing.
So you are proposing that conventional farming is the main force in global warming, and the organic farming is reversing this trend by storing carbon in the soil. But if the whole industry is switching to low-yielding, high-price organic farming, how do you propose we feed millions and millions of people that are currently malnutrition around the globe without the help of genetic modification?
Yeah, so you're saying that if GMOs were removed, how would we feed the world? GMOs definitely are beneficial, and especially in developing countries for increasing yield. But this is speaking strictly to GM in Canada for organic production. It's the producer's choice to grow organically. So if they don't want to use GMOs, maybe that does hurt their yield, but that gives us a premium price in certain markets.
GM technology has allowed for the creation of herbicide-resistant weeds and habitat disturbance due to the increase in herbicide use. In USA, GM creeping bentgrass was found 3.8 kilometers outside the area of cultivation. This was a result of both pollen-mediated crossing with wild plants dispersing GM seeds.
In 2014, it was reported that GM crop have reduced almost 2.4 billion kg in carbon dioxide emissions, and has also contributed to global reduction in pesticide spraying by 581 million kg between 1996 and 2014. Farmers are starting to include more chemicals to help counter the herbicide resistance. Rather than spraying glyphosate, we can replace the normal crop with a GM herbicide tolerant crops. This will reduce the need for tillage and greatly increase the organic matter in the soil and improve the weed management system.
There have been many studies done that prove GM crops do not transfer DNA from the food to humans. For instance, in BT crops, they have genes that are insect resistant and do not need additional harmful pesticides. The BT gene expressed in plants are not toxic to animals or humans, so how can you prove that GM technology is harmful when we have proved that they are reducing the need for toxic pesticides?
We can't necessarily debate whether it's the products made are healthier or not, but by not using GM technology, we are considered strictly organic. Producers want GMO free, or consumers want GMO free food. Whether there's a health benefit to that or not, arguably not, but that gives us a premium price, and that keeps open European markets.
Organic farming can help the climate change by trapping temperatures, raising carbon in the soil, keeping from contributing to greenhouse gases. A study shows that organic soils have 26% better at retaining carbon and retaining it for longer periods of time. Organic farmers can't use synthetic fertilizers, so they have to wait for their carbon to build up for nutrient management. Managing soils organically can reverse some of the effects of the climate change by isolating more carbon dioxide than is released annually. With agriculture near the top of the leader for the reason behind climate change, organic producers are helping the cause.
Right now, organic foods sell for more because of the lack of awareness of what actually happens in organic farming. The idea that organic farming uses no pesticides is a bluff. Organic farmers are allowed to use synthetic pesticides, but they try to convince people that they're only using natural pesticides, which have been proven just as harmful as synthetic pesticides anyways. But if GM technology were adapted, we have research showing that there would be a 37% decrease in the use of pesticides.
Most of food shortage in the world is in third world countries that cannot afford the expensive organic food that consumers think that are healthier and more safe. But they can adopt GM technologies that will make farming cheaper and the food produce more affordable. So our question is to you is how can you expect these poor countries to buy expensive organic food when GM crop are just as nutrition but comes at a reduced price?
We definitely agree that GM crops would be beneficial in developing countries, but the point of this debate is organic production within Canada. So if your debate there is saying that if all of Canada switched to an organic production, we're simply protecting current organic producers. We're not in any way saying that conventional should switch to organic.
Organic farming is very sustainable through the practices they take to produce their crops. Organic farming helps build the soil's health and reduces the risk of herbicides running into water supplies, protecting two of the most important resources. Organic farming has a greater biodiversity, making farming beneficial for wildlife. John Reginald of Washington University said organic farms have 30% more species on average than non-organics.
Like humans, if animals were to consume a GM plant, there is very conclusive evidence that proves no harm will be done. Genes cannot simply pass from one species to another. If this were possible, medical usefulness of gene therapy would be extremely high instead of being very difficult. All over the world, millions of scientists are trying to find a way to transfer genes to cure diseases, and it's been an extremely difficult effort.
As per the research done by Carpenter 2010, examined that 168 studies increase crop yield of GM crop and also reduce insect and weed population. So how would you decrease in your organic?
So with those studies, a lot of the benefits were seen in developing countries. Once again, we're just focused on Canada. And while GM products do reduce insects, as we already stated, they're starting to see resistance to things such as that BT transgenic. And then on the side of weeds, if you use GM technology, in that case, by organic standards, we still can't use the chemicals, so it doesn't change in any way. So you guys are arguing yield improvements, but these yield improvements will not be optimal without us using those chemicals along with the GMOs, but it'll still cost us organic markets, especially in Europe. So how do you intend to incentivize if the yield gains do not match that lost income?
When consumers were asked for their opinion on the organic food, they responded they are concerned about the pesticides sprayed on the food. Reality, people are unaware that GM crop uses 37% less pesticide than organic ones. So GM is better than organic in all terms. So labeling of GM is for awareness of consumers that are strategic made by organic marketers to sell more at a higher price.
This also refers to the benefits of GM in terms of economic value, and it has been reported to increase revenue in the U.S. by $6.8 billion, and 60% of that was for new adapters. In 2011, there was research said that the benefit from GM canola in Western Canada has helped raise over $350 million, and in the Philippines, it said that the normal person saved around $400 to $600 per year, which is a lot.
So that's with new adapters. Obviously, if you're a conventional farmer and you're not using GM technology, once you switch to GM technology, you're going to see a benefit. That's not necessarily organic switching to conventional. And then with the Philippines, once again, GMs benefit developing countries, but for organic producers within Canada, it only costs us a market.
They claim reduced pesticide by 37%. However, a study by Charles Benbrook found over a 16-year period from 1996 to 2011 that herbicide-resistant technology led to an established increase in pesticide use by 183 million kilograms, or about 7%. This is due to the resistant buildup, resulting in a variety of herbicides being used at an increased volume.
The study for that was done by a scientist named Cirilini, and he did a 2-year study on rats and reported that it increased in tumors among them fed GM corn. But after he presented this, real scientists and regulation agencies conducted a study that showed he was flawed and his findings to be fake and untrue. His work was withdrawn because the data was inconclusive and his conclusions unreliable. After more research was done on this scam, we now know that he was funded by an organic company and that he was just trying to scare people away from GM technologies and make billions of dollars in the process.
Organic standards in Canada should allow for the inclusions of GMO. As a prosecution, we are arguing that GM crops should be allowed to be included in organic production under Canadian standard. Because GMOs are much better than organic in all terms of yield, higher yield, cost of production, resistance to insect and pest. As discussed in my evidences, there are no proven adverse effect on health and environmental risks. There are politics behind the uplift of organic food by the organic marketers who have only intention to make money without concerning about the future of next generation.
GM crops should not be allowed in organic production because they do not fit the standards of the Canadian organics. Production without the use of GMOs allows farmers to sell in different markets and get a premium price for the goods. Organic farming without GMOs has a more positive impact on the environment, like again retaining 26% more of carbon in the soil. Organic production is worth more without GMOs because people are not willing to eat GMOs because of the side effects that come along with them. GM technology not included in Canadian organic standards allows producers who choose to grow organic to benefit economically while protecting the environment.